Hello, everybody. Happy Friday and happy Memorial Day. This is Dan Harrison coming to you from my home in Woburn, Massachusetts. And as has been our custom, we are here today, this Friday, beautiful Friday before a long Memorial Day weekend, to share in the joy of our community. This is our Unity Forum, and this is the most special time for me of the week. At least it has been in the past 9 or 10 weeks that we've been doing this. We've got some great guests today. I'm looking forward to talking with them. Before I do, I just want to note that this weekend, which Memorial Day weekend is, has in practice and custom become known as sort of the real beginning of summer, and it's a time when we're outdoors and having cookouts and being with family and all of that. It's going to look very different. It should look different for most of us as we continue to observe the guidance to maintain social distance, to wear masks when in contact with anybody. And so I just kind of again urge you all to please be responsible and to help us all do our part to stop the spread of this, because just because the weather's nice and because we are tempted to be outside and to frolic and play and to be doing all these fun summer things does not mean that the COVID-19 virus is gone anywhere. Memorial Day itself first began to be observed in various parts of the country after the Civil War. Uh, Technically, it's meant to honor fallen servicemen and women, and that's how we honor our servicemen and women in this country. Many Americans choose to visit cemeteries. I know I'll be going this weekend with my mother-in-law to put flowers on the graves of her parents and some others, and and I think this is also a time for us to reflect and think about the people that we've lost and that this disease has taken across this country. And not to be too much of a downer, but this it's a lot of Americans that are going into this holiday, probably the first real national holiday without somebody in their life that they loved. And so we have to remember the toll this has taken on so many people. But what been trying to do is to not have anything too upsetting or depressing on our Fridays. So what I'd like to do is to introduce you to a new friend that has joined us. Now, some of you may have felt like something's a little different, and it might be hard to see because of the pale wall, but Cubix has joined us, and I wore my T-shirt to just kind of impress him. This is Cubix, and he's decided to go by the name Cubix the COVID Crusher. And he's got his flag for the holiday, and he's just gonna crush COVID and just rip it to shreds and demolish it from the planet. That's our Cubix talking. You know, okay, so thank you. Um, Cubix, that's for those of you who don't know or unfamiliar, is what we use to remember our 6 core values: community, unity, belonging, innovation, collaboration, and sharing. And we focus on a lot on the first three: community, unity forum, belonging. We've talked a lot about those and how much they've come, how important it's been for us managing the our collective resolve in this fight, and to remember that we're not alone, no matter how isolated we might feel, that we're part of something bigger, that we belong to something bigger than ourselves. And so I needed a little way to kind of remember and keep it front and center. So that is what I'm going to have on my wall for our Fridays, and Cubic seems to be all right with that. And then thanks again to Sharon Pitts for my awesome new mask, which I will not be worried in the least to wear all weekend if need be, because it's very comfortable and I think it looks rather dashing and sexy. So there, I'll be doing my part. Um, Before we go to our first guest today, I want to just take a moment for us to honor our own NuPath heroes. These are the men and women who have worked in our COVID care center over the past 9 weeks, caring for people directly that have been diagnosed with the COVID-19 coronavirus. You've seen them. We're going to continue to talk about them. And when we start to mint our own coins, we'll put the faces of these men and women on those coins and bills, because they are the ones that have really gone so far above and beyond in putting themselves into the path and into the line of the virus, and helped us and helped people, our people, when they needed somebody, a human being to be with them most. And we thank them for that, and we're so grateful as an organization. So as I asked Greg to bring up our first guest, Mike Edwards, who I will tell you, he also happens to be one of these heroes. His picture was there. Mike is somebody that's been with us now for 4 years. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, Dan. How are you?
I am well, thank you. I was, when we were meeting before this, just doing like the technical checks and everything.
Right.
I said, I don't think I've seen you since the day that very first weekend that that we had the COVID care center closed down for that purpose. And I come walking in,
Yeah.
and I wasn't 100% sure that it had opened. I know that was the plan, but I didn't know if Dan had got the final approvals. I remember walking into the back. You must have been shocked.
Yeah, Dan. I was sitting at a desk typing up something. I don't know if I was talking to Sharon and Elder all day and just making sure the center's going. And we had one or two people there at the time, and I heard you. I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
And I looked up. He says, "You think I should be here?" And I said,
You came running at me with a mask and a shield and gloves and a hat.
I grabbed the first shield and the first mask I could find, and that's all I needed was you to get sick. And here's Edwards going, he brought the CEO down.
Yeah. Well, it was that very next Sunday, I'll have you know, that I was driving back from Northampton, coming back to the area on Sunday afternoon, when I was sure I had the fever and I had COVID. I thought, it happened. I went in there last week, and now look, I'm sick. And then I realized I had my seat warmer on high. I remember telling that story early on, but you came and you outfitted me. I think we had 3 people in there at the time.
I think at that time we did.
And you and Beth, of course, were the first ones to go through there. You had volunteered to be, the ones, the kind of guinea pigs, as it were, to kind of go in there and I mean, ever grateful for it. And you quarantined after that. Did you end up ever testing? You didn't test positive, right? Or did you?
I did not. About a week and a half, 2 weeks later, kind of like your seat warmer story. I just wasn't feeling great on a Sunday morning, and I was like, oh boy.
Here it comes. Yeah.
But I ran and got tested, and it was nothing. It was just a little common cold. That's all.
Hey, people do still get sick from regular things.
Absolutely.
Of course, everybody's always like, "Oh my God, I have it." Listen, you before we talk about the great work you've been doing in our virtual programming, which is one of the things I want to talk to you about, I want to just tell the people at home, let them know you are you've been with us now since April 25th of 2016, 4 years, but you worked with us before then. I mean,
I did.
Yeah, and then you left us for a bit, and then you came back, and it was great to have you come back. I tease people sometimes when I leave, and I say all roads lead back to NuPath. you leave here, you're going to be sorry you did. Maybe you'll end up coming back eventually, But
I actually, I think when I was leaving that first time, I think you had mentioned that I'd be back.
Did I? Well,
I think you did.
Well, so many people, when they leave us, they leave on good terms, and I'm always proud to feel that we're preparing people for new experiences and new sort of professional adventures. And hey, if you go and then you gain some more skills and come back and we can use you, then by all means, I love to have people that have been dedicated and servants to the organization come back. But since you've been back, you have been promoted then to the position that was formerly held by Elder, overseeing all of Passport Studios. It's one of our biggest programs, and
Correct.
It comes under the most scrutiny because who's got an office upstairs in the corner.
I know very well.
And you've been great. You've been so great in managing the needs of a building that gets a lot of use and a lot of wear and tear and a lot of public scrutiny. So commend you for that. And also the emergency contact, of course, for the building when anything goes wrong. You've been the one that people call. You have raised, in the time you've been back, over $3,340, and I know your wife and family have been involved in helping, in several different ways. Brett says they help you. You help them like set up and tear down
They
and
do. They do.
awesome.
Cameron and Debbie both are there the morning of every walk and helping out, whatever Brett and the guys need. And it's just become a family event that we all look forward to. My mom, my stepdad, we all get involved. So
Well, if they're watching this now, or if they watch it later on YouTube, which you'll have to show them because already you're doing a fantastic job. It's a shout out for me to your entire family for all their help. This is so often I say, the true, soldiers and or the real, successful NuPath, employees. It's a family affair. If you ask my brothers, that the number of times they've come in to help me for this or that thing, and friends that have been, hey, I need your help. I need a photographer. I need this. I need that. People that have helped out. So we just appreciate that so much. And of course, they probably wouldn't be that willing to do it if you weren't as dedicated, and you weren't as, sort of passionate about your job. So a lot of that, sort of comes from you. Last year, you were part of our Club 50. You were number 44, raising $1,950, 1950, good year. And that is huge. To think that you raised 1,950 and it was number 44.
I know.
That's a shock in itself. I mean, that's hard work. It's a lot to do. But what I think is most interesting now, would you tell us about your noontime extravaganza or your extravagance? And how have you been sort of helping and integral to our virtual programming and how we found the experience? Why don't you just talk a little bit about what's been going on and how that.
James had asked me a few, 7, 8, 9 weeks ago now, if I would want to do this webinar, and I said sure. It turned out to 1 or 2 times a week, and then he asked me to do it 5 days a week. It just brings normalcy to myself. It brings normalcy to the individuals that I serve, and that Martin Center, Westford, everyone in the homes, Amy's group. It's just kind of brought a little bit of normalcy to our lives, all of us, staff and individuals. Starts out at noontime. We just do a bunch of shutouts. Ken Sinabaldi's been helping me along the way. We some type of activity, be it a video. The shout-outs are very important. We dedicate for the first 15, 20 minutes to us.
So what kind of shout-outs do you mean? What kinds of things are you talking about?
Just going to every single individual and just spending that 30 seconds, It's only an hour and a half show, but we just make sure we spend as much as we can for every single individual to make them part of the show, webinar.
It's a show. Why not?
Yeah.
What you say, I think exemplifies something that I've been thinking and sort of talking about for a while, and that is, part of what makes us feel like we belong or we're connected to something is just being recognized as part of something else. I loved when I first started. I think it was the first person. Who was the first person that told me that after being part of one of these Unity forums, as soon as they got off, they said, "Oh, my phone was blowing up. Everybody texted me to say what a good job I did," and that is as important as anything. Giving staff a chance to, kind of be acknowledged and recognized. And I think our clients are the same. You come in and you miss your peers, you miss the recognition of being another person on this earth.
Absolutely.
And even if even if it was nothing more than, I think sometimes the greatest benefit, maybe it's accidental or secondary to the primary goal of whatever the virtual event is just seeing one another and being seen.
Right. Exactly.
It's great that you're doing.
And a lot of folks, if I skip somebody, I'll hear it.
They'll let you know. Yeah.
They'll let me know. It's been a great experience. I never thought I had used Zoom very, very infrequently in my in the past. Just kind of a couple of calls for various organizations that I'm with here in Woburn, but never to this extreme. The first week we had 4, 5, 6 people between noontime and the morning shows. We're well over 30, 40 people. So, individuals.
Yeah. I probably should talk about it yet, but one of the things we're working on is looking at the best format to use for some of these virtual events because no matter who you are, where you are, you probably have come to understand by now that our new world order is going to include a lot more virtual than it ever has before. And so I'm all about like really trying to perfect and find the very best option that there is out there. Now I know Zoom offers a lot of things, and the people like it because there's a lot of options that it provides.
Yeah.
But my feeling is just because we've used something with success that people kind of gotten used to, doesn't mean that there might not be some other way that makes it even better. And so we're looking at reformatting these events where it's gonna be much more kind of, sort of just highly more produced a little bit, with like the lower third banners and maybe I see it's kind of like a cross between CNN and Entertainment Tonight
Yeah.
or something. Because we live in a virtual world and in a digital world where media is so rich and full and bountiful and everywhere you look you've got just highly produced sort of visual information, and we've got to be able to compete with that. Otherwise, how do we get people to watch the important stuff?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Shout outs. What else do you do in your events? What kinds of things do you talk about?
A lot of shout outs. We actually incorporated the greenhouse up in Woburn Street. We've been doing some growing up there, just kind of a satellite broadcast
So like
from
a
it.
camera on something growing?
Yeah, no.
Oh, that'd be fun. I think it'd be fun.
Well,
It'd
we're
go really fast.
showing planting, things like that. We've done some virtual tours, SeaWorld, a few other ones. We've brought in many volunteers.
Did you do a tour of a submarine? Did you do something with a submarine?
We did. Yeah, there was
She was talking about you guys last week, wasn't she? She said that it was one of the ones that the
the
Bolliers
Yellow
had bought.
Submarine. Yeah,
That
the
sounds
Yellow
fun.
Submarine was the introduction to our submarine travels.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
I've always been intrigued by submarines. So
yeah.
yeah.
Ken sent up all these finds a bunch of stuff, and we just keep going. And it's been great co-hosting. Of I have three or four co-hosts now in the noontime. We were having so much fun. Our show was supposed to be from 12 to 1 o'clock, and I think your next guest now takes the reins from me and Ken at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And she goes from 1 to 1:30. There was a point that everyone just wanted to talk. I mean, they were
Yeah.
liking what we were presenting,
Yeah.
but we just wanted a total no bars, no structure
Yeah.
or anything like that. And your next guest came up to me one day and said, what can we do? I said, you can just take the reins at 1 o'clock, and she brings it to 1:30, and it's free reign. Anything happens.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to her. And by the way, I should say Ken Baldi, he's in a class unto his own too, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is an incredible, just force, zealous, like, advocate for NuPath. I don't think there ever was anybody that was more of a mover shaker when it comes to getting stuff for the men and women that we serve and getting opportunities. And he really is incredible. You're lucky to have on your team, as far as having.
He's actually brought in quite a few guests. We have a school teacher from Timberland up in New Hampshire that comes, sees us 5-10 minutes a day. His daughter comes sees us. We've had divers from the New England Aquarium that have come seeing us. Our friend, the fire chief up at the Bedford Municipal Airport, comes to see us every now and then. We have an organizer that Ken has reached out to. So it's actually become a community affair outside of NuPath. We're just bringing in so many folks.
If you're up there, and I put myself in this category of being somebody that has not seen the New Time Extravaganza, I've got to find time and make sure I set aside an hour to join in with you guys. And if you think about where would we be if you had been doing that, all the people that had sense of purpose in the middle of the day and had something to look forward to and a chance to see their friends and a chance to be transported out of the the dogged misery sometimes and just the routine and the fear and the anxiety. It's really more than a service. It's like it's it's life-saving almost in some ways when you think about it. You know, something as simple as just preparing a forum for people to be
Yeah,
exported to something outside of the routine. You know.
yeah. It's been a pleasure to do it, Dan. It really has, and it's been a wealth of experience for myself and my team.
Well,
Um, those folks in Passport Studios have just been, we've learned a lot from it. And
we are certainly the better for it. We're so lucky to have you and Ken doing this great work every single day. Like I said, I will definitely plan on being a part of it.
yeah,
Maybe I could be a guest even on your show at some
that'd be
point.
awesome. That'd be
And
great.
thank you. You know, on behalf of our families that you probably don't always hear from. I know that it means a lot. We heard last week from families, and you guys have just really you're doing amazing things. Thank you, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Hey,
For
just
all
one more thing, Dan. If the next time you come see me at the NBSCC, just give me the heads up, will you?
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for rescuing me from COVID because who knows
All
where
right.
I'd be right now if you hadn't come to my rescue with this mask.
All right.
Hey, thanks to your family again for being part of the NuPath experience and becoming part of NuPath now as we figure out
Thank
what's
you.
this organization. So, hey, keep up the
Thanks.
good work.
All right. Bye-bye.
Mm, you get a dry mouth when you talk as much as I do. Um, that was great. Uh, I really appreciated uh, that. You know, the funny part of the rest of that story is so here I stumbled into the COVID center and I kind of thought, I mean, I guess I did think it started, but I just wasn't sure exactly what it was all about. I just wanted to kind of see it with my own eyes. And so after Michael came and rescued me and I put all the gear on, I was talking to Beth and the guys that were up there and kind of looking at the space and wanted to see. And I said, well, let's do a video. So I did a video and then I sent it to Greg and Brett and said, hey, what do you think about this? And we were like, no, you weren't supposed to be in there. We're not going to be broadcasting that around. And here I am telling everybody I did it. So someplace in the archives of history, probably with all the blooper reels, you would find that video. And it was I was pretty silly. But next up is Bethany Chase, who, if you work anywhere near or around our home office at 147, Bethany is I'd be unfair to call you a cafeteria lady because you are
It's
far
okay,
from.
Dan. I don't mind. It's all right.
You are the if you a lot of people I could be gone for weeks and nobody would know it. If you're gone a day, people would just be bereft of like any knowing what to do with themselves. You provide so much structure to the hub of and the heart of programming there because everybody knows the center of every family and home is the kitchen and where people eat and that's right where you are managing the money and you've been doing so many things. Before we talk about any of that, I want to tell you from a personal level, you have been so kind and so gracious and such an encourager to me personally and on behalf of my mother. The number of times you have emailed me, that you have offered your prayers, that you even sang. I don't hope it's okay to tell people, but you
It's
sang
okay, Dan. It's okay. I
my
don't
mother,
mind.
one of my mother's favorite songs, and sent it to me just to try to encourage her. And I know you've been an encourager to Brett Riley. He's talked about you inquiring about his mother, and if you're doing that for us, you must do it for countless other people that you come in contact with. And it's just who you are, what you become known as. It's this beautiful life force that's among us, and we thank you for that. I thank you for that, personally and on behalf of the organization. Um, You've been with us now since 2012. It's 7.5 years.
Yes, 7.5 years. Wow. It's hard to believe. Yeah.
Well, we're lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Yeah, and thanks for the encouragement. I have to say, like, the one thing about working at 147 New Boston Street, that every staff there brings something to the table. Everyone, we all have such unique personalities, and if any of us take a day off, everyone knows, and so it's great. So thank you for mentioning that.
And corrected on that. You you're obviously very bright and dedicated and committed and carried and all of those other adjectives I can stack right up and embarrass you with. But you've also turned out to be quite of a generalist in the sense that turns out you've got some bookkeeping skills and some accounting skills, and you were helping us out for a period. I don't know if you still are doing work with our accounting department, but I know you had been doing some work there. And then you've been doing the wellness checks and the wellness calls. You've been part of our virtual programming, and I understand you do the time after Ken and Mike at 1 o'clock. Is that every day that you do that?
Yeah, so to touch on what you first mentioned, my dad, I
Yeah.
said, Dad, guess what? I am now an accountant, because my dad always wanted my brother and I to be an accounting
Was he an
people,
accountant? Is he
but
an accountant?
yeah, he is. He's a CPA. He's retired, but yeah, for the week that we closed the programs to the individuals at 147, I did help out Deb Harris and a few other people up there, Bill, and so that was a blessing to get to hone in some more Microsoft Excel skills. And to touch on what else you mentioned, I do the wellness checks. Yeah, so I call about, let's see, over a span of a week, I call about 20 or so individuals.
Right. Wow.
So yeah, and some of the individuals that I call don't have access to the internet at this point. So there's a little singing I do on the phone sometimes. People will
I
pick a
believe
song.
it. I believe it.
And it's fun. It's like, singing Zippity Doodah. I mean, who doesn't like that? Come on.
Well,
It's a
I
good
don't
song.
know if you probably would you want to sing for us? Would you want to grace us with
Oh
your
my
singing?
gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Maybe later. Maybe we could do a duet, Dan, before I sign off. Would that be good? Oh.
I was gonna no. You've got the voice. I mean, somebody's willing to
Oh.
sing a cappella. Well, I don't want to embarrass you too much. I was actually gonna look for
Well,
what you sent me for my mother, but that's okay. I
yeah.
shouldn't put you on the spot
Well,
like
it might come out during one of our conversations. I'll just sing something. We'll see. But
that. Zippity.
zippity yay, my oh my, what a wonderful day.
There you go.
Plenty of sunshine heading my way. Zippity doo dah, zippity yay.
See?
I turned into a little bit of an alto with my allergies. So
See,
so
but you got a beautiful voice. See, you can tell a voice that is meant to be heard in that way. And then there's voices that are meant to be drowned out by a shower or a car running.
oh.
Or yeah. So luckily for you, you're the former. But so these wellness calls that you do, you're just calling to let somebody know that we care, that to see if they're doing okay. Is there anything they need? Is that right? Like, what do you? Because I haven't had a wellness call, but I
Yeah,
know I
sure.
people have mentioned
Yeah. So every call is so different, and for me, I do enjoy structure. So I have my little chart that I know who I call at what time, and it's works out for them as well. And so I basically start off depending on who it is. Every personality is so different, so I just let them take away the phone call in terms of what they want to talk about, and then we have questions that we check in to make sure everything's okay, and making sure that no one's having symptoms, and just making sure that people that their mental health is doing okay at this time, because this has taken a toll on a lot of us, and not having that full structure and a program to come to is really hard for me, as well as I know
Yeah.
for the individuals we serve.
Yeah.
So it depends on what people want to talk about, and then sometimes we'll talk with the family members as well, just to check in and see if they have the supplies they need, and if they have access to iPads or anything they would need to join the virtual programming. And just
Mhm.
I've also become kind of a tech person, which was also never something I thought I would be. I'll sometimes do like a just a check in to see if people know how to use Zoom before they get on there. So that works
Isn't
out.
that something? Mike Edwards was talking a moment ago about how he barely did anything to do with Zoom. I mean, I'd heard of Zoom, but I hadn't really done anything with it either. And here we are, all of us becoming these, sort of new sort of experts, I guess. If you know anything more about Zoom than I do, you become an expert to me then, because you're going to help me do things. And that's how I think it is with a lot of our folks. And I know you're doing that. One last thing before I let you go. I understand your father, the venerable CPA, retired CPA, has joined you on some of the because you've also been a guest on. Is it Elders Sports Talk on
So
Wednesday?
yeah, so it's so awesome how everything evolved. I do the joke of the day during the noontime show that Mike does, and now I just have to show you what the joke of
I
the
want
day
to
is.
joke.
So
Okay.
it's I don't know if that's backwards on
Yeah,
your
yeah,
end, but
yeah.
oh,
No, no.
okay. No, so it's what do you call a candy that giggles? A Laffy Taffy.
I
And so
love.
I actually have a joke advisor, and my joke advisor is one of our individuals in the program. And so
Oh,
he helps me plan out what jokes we're going to do for the following week and also suggests ways to draw them. And then I use my dry erase board that I borrowed from work, and it's basically something we've been doing in the CAF for over a year. Different staff and individuals will suggest a joke. So we're just keeping the community running from home. And so that's been a joy to join Mike on that. And he was gracious to allow Julie and I to co-host the after show, which is a conversation time.
yeah,
And it's just been great. Like Brian Ellsworth has allowed me to
yeah,
co-host the sports chat, and I
yeah.
also co-host with Jan on the game. We do a game time on Tuesday, Thursday. So everything has just been so great with how things have evolved and like how when help was needed, we've been able to help each other out. But yes, to touch on what you said, my father, who is a former CPA, is also one of the biggest sports fans I know. He took us to Cooperstown growing up. We went to the Basketball Hall of Fame growing up. I played baseball for about 8 years growing up.
Did
So
you?
he actually joins us during the sports chat, and he's been so great on that, and he really loves it. And he's in
Yeah.
South Carolina, so I get to have quality time with him during the
Oh,
workday.
he does it virtually like
So
that. Wow.
yeah, so yeah, and even on the weekends I do a little game time with my parents, so we spend some time together on Zoom. So really, Zoom's been such a blessing to use
Yeah,
for NuPath and for also personal use too.
it's
So.
so true. I thought you were going to say when we started talking that your father was your joke advisor, but we all know CPAs are funny.
No, no, no. Oh goodness, I'm so glad that you brought that up because no, my dad is the biggest punster that I know. He even when he retired from banking, they put his face with all these banking puns on signs around the room because that's
Wow,
how much people know him for his jokes. So I hope
wow.
you get to meet him virtually someday.
I
So,
would like that. But you know
yeah.
what? I bet your parents are so proud of you, and they should be because you have just brought just a beautiful spirit to this entire endeavor. And I know you have touched so many lives, countless lives, people that we don't ever know. And they always say a test of character, a measure of character is what you're doing when nobody's watching. And you are a constant force in the lives of so many of the men and women in our care and their families and as we get through this we go through these dark times and try to we look at what's on the other side. What does NuPath look like now? What is the new iteration of it? I know that you're going to fit so prominently into that. And yeah, so mom and dad, you should be proud of your daughter, and we thank you, Bethany. We love you. You're a treasure to so many and to all of us here. We thank you for your service, and we wish you
Thank
continued
you.
success. Stay healthy, stay well. We need you.
Yeah, God bless you, Dan. Thank you so much for having these forums too. It's cool to have a talk show, I have to say. So,
I didn't know that's what it really was, but if
well,
it
no, I
doesn't,
mean, I mean on Fridays it feels like kind of like a
I
little
don't
bit of a talk show. So
well, I'll do my best
informative,
to try to.
informative.
I don't have a problem with talking to people because you know me, I love to talk to people, and I always have always like 10 more questions than I have time to ask. But because my dad used to always say, you just ask so many questions. But I say this is a sign of great intelligence to ask
It's
questions.
okay to be inquisitive. It's
It's okay to
okay.
be. Well, we thank you, Bethany, and wish you continued success. And hopefully, we'll see you eventually in person in the flesh, although it may be 6 or 12 feet apart away from me. But thank you,
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
thank you. So we have now that's a big shoes to follow. But I just in saying goodbye to Bethany, she really has been I know has been a source of encouragement to a lot of people. Um, it so you can never underestimate um, how much a simple word of kindness can mean to somebody. It doesn't have to be eloquent words always. It just be asking after somebody's a family member and some people are just I think they just are blessed with the natural gift of being concerned and being empathic and caring about others. And And I see that so much in Bethany and the sort of community around her and the people. You hear from so many people that say, "Oh, Bethany's in some great shape." So we're very lucky to have her. Now, moving onward to Mr. Roberto Gay, who is a direct support professional in our New Boston Street location. There he is. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Now, did anyone ever, I know you probably get this all the time, but when I hear your
Mhm.
voice, something tells me you should be in this seat conducting interviews, and I should be, someplace over there. You've got that voice that just says, I'm in control, I'm in command, I should be a radio, host or do you get that a lot?
I do. And actually, one of my favorite radio stations to listen to was Magic 106.7. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I am.
David Allen Boucher. Yeah,
Oh, yes. It's really, that's your favorite?
yeah,
You're too
yes,
young for that.
yeah. I used to listen to that every night before going to sleep. So
I did
he's my
too.
idol. Yeah,
And he's just got that soothing, sultry voice that just kind of
he really does.
puts you to sleep, well,
Just
and
rocks you.
I don't know, he rocks you to sleep. Nice. Yeah, so that voice, that golden, I mean, it's been referred to as a golden voice. I don't know why. Maybe I'm the
Yeah,
first to ever say that because it's how it seems to me. But we got to figure out a way to do more with that voice for NuPath. I'm always like trying to
okay.
like figure out
I'm
what
open for it.
you're open for it. What would you think
Yeah,
you could do with that voice? You could, besides, like maybe you could do some sort of a broadcast or a podcast.
maybe. Or maybe to follow in the footsteps of my idol, host a Tonight Show.
Oh, there you go. There you
Yeah,
go. Or be a radio disc jockey, like putting people to sleep across NuPath land. We
we
call
can
it
do that as
NuPath
well.
nighttime, nocturnal NuPath nighttime. Oh, something. You come up with the name.
Yeah,
I'm sure you would.
it'll come to
Well,
us.
you have been with us now for 2 years. Well, since
Yes.
2017. So that's longer than 2 years. Well, be 3 years this year. Is that right?
Yes, in September.
And I was told that you have an IT background. You were somebody that were trained, went to college for it and everything, but then you ended up doing this work. Talk to us about how we were so fortunate to get somebody with a voice
Yeah.
like yours and with the IT background to work for NuPath. Talk to us about that.
I just enjoyed the freedom that NuPath offered. Rather than being stuck behind a desk, I get to work with some great clients, and we go out into the community and just have fun. And I found that a lot more appealing than sitting behind a desk. So I'm actually very happy that I made that decision, and it's said a lot since I've been here for 2 years, and I haven't even thought about leaving yet. So I love being here.
They say that the old saying is that if you do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. You do remember hearing that
Yeah,
expression?
I
And
do.
and I always think about this years and years and years, more years than I can even hardly remember back to. But when I was a young man, just out of college, and I fell into this job by accident. I'd never had any interactions with anybody with a disability before. We're going back to
Mhm.
1989, 1990, and when I first got the opportunity to work, and I thought, I don't know if I could do that. Like, I don't know, that might be uncomfortable for me. And then I started in, and I loved it. I mean, I just felt like I was making a difference in people's lives. Like, it mattered whether or not I got up in the morning. Where I wasn't just making the rich people richer. I was like really contributing. I think that's a positive draw sometimes to our jobs. And you like it. You're happy. What do you normally do for? Do you have one of the Without Walls groups, or what are you doing?
No, I'm still a day hab coach. I used to live in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, but now I live in Abington, where we recently bought a home. So I would commute to one of our group homes, then commute to 147 and spend the day with our clients.
Abington is, just so that people know, you're not saying Arlington, you're saying Abington, and that's a bit
Yes,
further away. How long would it take you to get to work in the morning?
yeah, South Shore. From Abington to Waltham, it's about an hour's commute, and then 30 minutes or so from Waltham to Woburn.
Oh my God, man. You must be a good driver and not hate driving too much. 'Cause if you got a car, you sit back, you just kick on some tunes, listen to some David Allen Boucher, and just sort of yeah,
Yeah.
drive down the highway. So you have been now. We heard your name last week. Those of you who were listening, I think the McKays were talking about the fitness groups that you do. That apparently you really put people through their paces there. Talk to us about that and how
Yes.
that's been working out.
I tried. I joined pretty much in its infancy. At first, I assumed it was just something to keep the guys engaged and moving. But as we got through and as we hosted these classes more, I noticed that the guys can actually keep up. And so I brought it onto myself to actually challenge them and try to help them hit some personal records. So it's gotten to the point now where I'm editing my original regiment, and adding on to our original plans so that we can challenge the guys. So it's really fun. I'm really glad that I walked onto the Power of Fitness group.
You've said so many things in the last couple of sentences that I think are profound and are meaningful to me because I'll tell you what you're talking about is the joy of setting high expectations for people. You know, in this field, and I'll put myself into that category. And I know in the past I've done it where we it's the tyranny of low expectation, I call it, where you don't expect anybody to like, well, you can work, but you're gonna be pulling in carriages from Stop and Job, or you're gonna be, doing housekeeping, maintenance. Instead of like really saying, hey, you can do whatever you want, and we're gonna find whatever job you want. Going into something like a fitness course and saying, well, they're probably not going to be able to follow along, but then being in tune to saying, hey, yeah, why not? You know what? I'm going to amp it up a bit. I'm going to start adding more in, and I assume you talk to them about the fact that they're doing more. This is getting harder. I mean, it's not been any accident
Yeah.
that you're. And that's the second thing that I think is so. Don't worry about what you said. Is that people want to feel like they've been challenged, that they're reaching some sort of a goal. My mother, who is, you probably heard me talk about, people probably say, how can I not? But she's at a facility here in Woburn. But she's spent times in rehab for certain falls, she had, hip replacement and so on. And I remember there was this therapist that worked with her, a young man, and she loved that guy so much. And it was because he would talk to her about her progress. Other people, she would say, well, I asked them, how am I doing? Am I getting any better? And it would just break my heart. I'd be like, you know what? We as human beings long to please others, to improve, to grow, to evolve. And why would we think that our people are any different? Just because you have disabilities doesn't mean you don't have those same needs. And so that's what you're doing. You're challenging people. I mean, the McKay men were like so proud of themselves. They're like, it's really a tough workout. We're really getting better, and that's what you can bring, to people's lives, in a roundabout way.
Yeah, and you mentioned the McKays. They're actually the first people that I look at while hosting these workouts. And I look at Danny, and he's added on extra weight just to add an extra bit of challenge to the workouts that we're doing. And that's when I started to realize, yeah, we can actually push ourselves to the limit and then break that limit. And so Amy, James, and I were working on challenges for individuals to meet. And it's been a really fun process so far, and I hope that we continue on to do it.
Now, you're not one of those mean coaches, are you? That screaming out insults and yelling at people. Come on, people! You're not doing
No,
that.
no, it's all positive.
Of course it, of course it is. Yeah. I would hope not, because I was thinking, well, maybe if you're not too mean, maybe I'll even join one of your courses eventually.
Hey, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you.
Well, what do you, last thing, and then I'll let you go. The wellness calls. You do some wellness calls for us too. What's that been like? Has that been something that is, I don't know, do you enjoy it? Is it get routine? How do you feel about that?
No, I do. Sort of similar to Bethany, I call about 40 people per week.
Ooh.
Um, and sometimes I get to talk to the guys, and the guys that are actually more vocal than the others, we have a long conversation about how their weeks are going, what they've done for the day or throughout the week. And it's really great to hear that some of our guys are doing well in adjusting with the quarantine. So it's been a really fun process to be able to contact the guys that we don't get to speak to. Um, and I enjoy that aspect of the work that I do from home as well. Maybe a little more so than the gym, but still
Yeah.
pretty close.
Yeah. Well, what we don't want you to enjoy is not making this commute, because we need you to, when this all said and done, we don't want to hear that you found a job in the South Shore, because we all know the North Shore is the place to work. You know,
Yeah.
I'm teasing you, but hey, you're making a huge difference in people's lives in big and small ways, and it all matters. It matters a lot, you know, and as we think about what NuPath now is going to look like in this new era, post-pandemic or mid-pandemic, we need people with IT skills, and we need sharp, bright, you know, young people that are going to help us figure out and reinvent what this is going to look like. And so I am sure glad we have you on board. And thanks for your service and your great work, and for making that commute every day.
Thank you. I enjoy being here. I'm thankful for the opportunity, and I'll continue to do whatever I can to help challenge our clients or individuals.
Mhm. Great. Well, I appreciate, and I always think that when I hear something positive about a staff person, before I know them really that well, you know, that is like the highest compliment you could get, is to have something completely unsolicited, mentioned just in passing, and you know, you heard your name last week. Don't tell me that you weren't listening, because if you weren't watching, then I would rather not know. But now you'll watch. But it was, I said I got to figure out who this guy is, and I know what how he's touching the blessing lives. So Roberto, thank you so much on behalf of the organization. Really appreciate it. Stay healthy, stay well, and we will see more of you, I'm sure, as we go forward.
Well, thank you for having me.
All righty, we'll talk to you again soon. Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye bye. All right, guys, we've got some amazing people working for us, don't we? And all of you who are watching right now, you're amazing, and I appreciate you more than I can say. We've got um, so many people that I miss. I miss seeing. I miss, you know, I miss. I was I was over at the Martin Center on Wednesday, and by the way, for anyone who's watched from the Martin Center, I went around and watered all the plants in all the rooms. There weren't any dead, so that's good. Somebody else had watered some in the lobby, so I didn't have to do those. But and I saw John Lannon over there. I was like, I haven't seen you for a long time, and sometimes you don't think about people you don't see every day, but then you see them and you realize you miss them, and I miss so many of you, and I appreciate your support and your patience, and as we figure this thing out, what we're going to look like in this, you know, new path now. You heard me talk about it yesterday. You're going to hear more. But this weekend, I take a few moments to remember people we've lost, people that have served this country, and be safe, please. Have fun, but do it from a distance, and wear your masks, right? And yeah, I was trying to get this on for going out. I think I have it up upside down. Okay, guys, over and out. Have a great weekend. Bye.